Alright you guys, so today I'm going to talk about what a miscarriage actually feels like physically. If you've seen my recent video, I did have a pregnancy loss and I feel now more emotionally prepared to really talk about it. I'm just going to warn you that this is going to be a pretty graphic explanation. I'm going to be inserting some pictures and I just want to tell you right now if this could be triggering for you, or if you feel like you can't handle watching something like this, please do not watch this video. Just click out now. As much research as I did, I think I only found 2 articles online that actually talked about something similar to what I experienced. I'm going to link both of those articles down below in the description so that you guys can click on those and read them if you want to. But I felt like this needed to be put out there because obviously all miscarriage experiences are different. Some people feel pain, some people don't, some people bleed a lot, some people don't. But I did not find a lot of information for the specific experience that I had. So as usual, I'm here to share it with you guys just in case somebody is going through something similar. So let's jump into it. I think in the last video, I was about 2 or 3 days into the miscarriage. I had a little bit of brown spotting at that point. On September 11th is when I had my first gush of blood, and that's when I knew something was wrong. It's when we went to the doctor, but I only bled for 1 day. And then for about a week, I had brown spotting every single day. I'll insert a picture of that right here. So I was thinking, oh wow, was that it? However, when I went to my ultrasound on the following Monday, they did see that I still had the gestational sac inside my uterus. So my OB proceeded to tell me that I would be having, probably in about a week or so, what she called the event. And just hearing the name event makes it seem like it's gonna be a big deal. But she described it as an episode of probably a lot of cramping, some bleeding, some blood clots passing. She told me I would not see anything recognizable because I was so early. I miscarried around 6.5 weeks. She kind of gave me that little lowdown and told me the typical things, like if you start to bleed heavier than 1 pad an hour, if you start to feel dizzy or lightheaded, go to the emergency room. So I proceeded to wait for this big event, and as the days went on, my brown spotting got lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter to where it was practically nothing. So this was the weekend of September 18th and 19th and 20th. We had 2 weddings that we were setting up for our floral business. I started to have heavier brown spotting, which Saturday night progressed into a dark reddish brown spotting. So at that point I kind of knew it was gonna happen, and I was sort of anticipating it happening that Sunday. So Sunday rolls around and Sunday morning went by without an event, and then I started to experience cramping. Now I will say that it started for me like heavy period cramps. I have endometriosis, and so I typically have worse cramping around my period than an average woman might have. If you have endometriosis, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't have endometriosis, imagine the worst cramping that you've ever had during your period. And probably double it. But so I started to have that kind of intense cramping in the lower abdominal area, and I just kind of knew, okay, something's gearing up here. From that moment until the actual release of the sac, I will call it, my head gets a little bit foggy because honestly the whole thing felt like it took 15 hours. When I talked to my husband to get a better time frame, he said that the whole thing probably lasted about an hour, and the most intense portion of it was about 15 minutes. So the cramping intensified. And it intensified quickly to where I started to experience cramping down the inner thigh area, like down my hips into the inner thigh, just a lot of pain, like intense, throbbing, aching pain, in addition to the cramping in the uterus area. I could not get in a comfortable position. It's like everything in my body wanted to just crunch up in a little ball. Fetal position on the ground didn't help. Crunching up on the toilet didn't help. Trying to lay flat and like open the muscles did not help. The only bit of relief I could find was basically sitting in a seated fetal position in the shower with warm water just like pouring onto me. That was the only time I could find any relief. And so at this point, I felt like my uterus was a giant rock. Like it was so painful, so tight, so clenched, and I was sweating. I was physically shaking. I'd never experienced any pain like that in my life. If you are familiar with endometriosis pain during your menstrual cycle or throughout the month, literally I would have said it is at least 5 times more painful than that. And I do not want to say this to scare you, because my mother had 6 miscarriages and she never experienced cramping like I did. I think everybody experiences something different, but I wanted to share this experience because I thought I was crazy, and when I would try to find descriptions of people going through something like this, I only found a few. So I wanted to give you this experience so that you know if you're feeling this, you're not alone. So the pain was intense. Cramping in the abdomen, like just constant. All the way down the inner thighs. Could not stop myself from like making guttural noises. I was crying. My husband was being amazing. He was sitting there stroking my back, telling me it was gonna be okay. At one point, we both just like in the middle of my crying just burst out laughing because it was unlike anything we had mentally prepared for. And what the OB told us to prepare for was not this. I felt like he was coaching me through birth in the shower. And thank goodness for him, because he was so supportive and so kind. And so I got out of the shower. I told him I wanted to try to lay on the floor with a heating pad. And at this point, it's almost like it developed into backwards contractions. So it was like super intense, just pain constantly. And then it started to be like, okay, pain for about a minute, and then it would lessen for about 30 seconds, and then it would come back again. And I could feel it kind of surge up. And then it kind of reduced from there. And it got less and less and less to where I could feel it building. I would have this contraction cramping, and then it would release. And there would be a longer stretch of time in there. So we started up here at the super intense moment, and it just kind of gradually went down and down and down. At this point, my mom got to the house because I kept asking for my mom. Unfortunately, she missed the craziness, but I was glad she was there for what happened next. So after the cramping died down, I felt exhausted. I still hadn't passed anything yet, but I felt comfortable enough to try to go to sleep. I woke up, went to the bathroom, and it kind of flopped out. I could not bring myself to pick it up. I asked my mom to do it. Of course, moms are amazing like that, and they will do anything for you. The majority of it, I would say it was probably about the size of my hand. Majority of it was blood clot, like coagulated blood, but we did see a small round piece of tissue which looked like a collapsed sac, is what I'm thinking. So that had passed. For the rest of the night, I just started to bleed like a heavy period, but it was just constant like bleeding, nothing else going on. I felt like I passed the sac and that was it. Fast forward to day 2, I started to have in the evening the same contraction event again, where the contractions were there and then they would release. It was by no means as painful as Sunday's event, but it was still quite a bit more painful than my endometriosis cramping. And this didn't last very long. I could tell it only lasted about 5 or 10 minutes. But then after this, 30 minutes later, I passed a large clump of tissue. Now, this is a very graphic image I'm gonna put in here to show you what this tissue looked like, because I, again, was trying to find online what this was. This is not the largest piece. I would not show you that because even remembering that makes me want to throw up. This is a small piece of the tissue that you're gonna see here, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So here's the picture. So that is a small piece of tissue. I would say the largest piece that I passed, if that one was about this big, the largest piece I passed was probably this big, so 3 times larger than what you see in the picture, plus a lot of blood clots and everything. Not pretty stuff, guys. But then I was like, okay, this must be like uterine lining shedding or just extra stuff coming out, placenta, I don't know what it is, but it's coming out, so this is good. Because, oh, I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, I'll write this down in the description or something, was a natural miscarriage, not brought on by the medication that you can take to get things going along, and obviously not a D&C, which is a surgery where they go in and remove everything. So that was the day after, passed this huge clump of tissue, thought, okay, surely this gotta be over now. Next day, another contraction event. I think the cramping and tissue passing episodes, I think I had about 4 or 5 in total over the course of 3 or 4 days. After that last one, I just had mild cramping and heavy period flow for, let's see, at this point it was probably Thursday, so 23rd of Wednesday or 24th of Thursday, 25th, 26th, and 27th, constipation like I've never experienced before. I never have bowel issues. I'm very lucky. I've always had no trouble with that. But I read that the hormone fluctuations caused by the miscarriage, where your HCG level is just dropping down, can cause your body to get a little out of whack as it's trying to stabilize and kind of get back to normal. You can experience intense bloating, gas, and constipation. Guys, painful to where if I made a sudden movement, it was like a sharp pain ran through my abdomen. So what did we do? We loaded up on the fluids. My husband made amazing soups with lots of fiber and lots of vegetables, all that stuff to try to get things moving. And this lasted for about 3 days. And it slowly got better every day. But if this happens to you, be prepared for painful experience to where you have trouble sitting or lying down. I could not find a comfortable position. My stomach was bloated like crazy. So much trapped air. It was not pleasant, and I was not expecting that because my OB did not mention that happening. And now I have just started to pass more of the brown discharge. Very, very, very little at this point. So today, let's see how many days we are past the beginning. 18 days. So from the first bleeding episode. 18 days, and now I feel like I am almost 100% back to normal. There is my experience. I would say that this is a more intense experience than most people might have. I don't know for sure, but from the people that I've spoken to who have had miscarriages that are in my life, this was much more brutal physically, but the range is wide. So I just wanted to share this so that you guys can have a frame of reference. I don't know if the large endometriosis cysts and lesions that I have inside had something to do with the more intense pain, because obviously it makes my period pain more intense, so maybe it would make this miscarriage more intense. That makes sense logically to me. Whatever it was intense, and I was not prepared. Hopefully you can be a little prepared to face whatever might come. I won't sugarcoat it. It was not a happy experience. It is still raw and it is still painful. So many women go through something like this. It's just not talked about very much, and people feel like they have to keep it in and they can't talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. You don't have to talk about it. But if you want to, talk about it. I talk about it. I've spoken about it on my Instagram page. I've now shared it here on YouTube, and I plan to be very open and honest with you guys going forward about our experience, because I just feel like the more that it's out there, the more comfortable people will be hearing about it, talking about it, and the stigma around it will hopefully go away. So thank you guys so much for your constant support. I hope to have some more positive videos coming your way. This is just a rough patch. Hopefully when I get past the surgery, we'll start to be on the mend. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.